Hi, and welcome to The Regulated Mother. I'm your host, Afshan Tafler, nervous system resilience coach and mother of a hypersensitive high needs child. If you're raising a differently wired kid with PDA, autism, OCD, ADHD, or big emotional needs, this is a space for you. Here we talk about what most people don't, how it really feels, how your nervous system responds, and how to find your way back to calm, courage, and connection, even on the hardest days. This episode was created using an AI-generated discussion of one of my blog articles. I'm using this format to make my writing more accessible for those who prefer to listen rather than read. You'll find the link to the original article in the show notes. Let's dive in.
Okay, let's dive right in. We're looking at something really personal today, something that I think resonates whether you're a parent or honestly just navigating life's tough spots.
Yeah, we've got this incredibly moving reflection from a mother. She's exploring the complexity of gratitude.
Or more specifically, the struggle to feel grateful,
Right.
especially when, society's basically shouting that you should feel it. Think Mother's Day.
Exactly. That tension it's right there from the start, isn't it? This external expectation, the happy, always grateful mom,
Yeah.
bumping right up against the internal reality, which might be grief or shame or just the weight of things not turning out how you pictured.
Totally. You see that perfect image, the ideal, and inside it feels like a wall. The author puts it so well, wanting to feel it, even thinking the words, I'm grateful, but...
But just not feeling it, like
Yeah.
in the heart, a real block.
So our mission here in this deep dive is to unpack the why. Why does gratitude sometimes feel so out of reach, even in moments meant for it?
And crucially, what path does this author find? How does she reconnect? We're going to pull up the specifics, the examples she gives, to really understand that journey.
And, while her story is rooted in motherhood, the emotional landscape she covers, dealing with expectations, facing hard feelings, looking for real peace, that's pretty universal, I think.
Oh, absolutely. It speaks to anyone wrestling with those things. Okay, so where do we start? What really jumps out first is how she describes this physical feeling.
The blocked heart.
Yeah, exactly. That sense of closing off, maybe even a kind of numbness.
And it's not just blocking the good stuff, is it? It's not just about gratitude or love for her child. She realizes it's also blocking the tougher feeling.
The vulnerable ones.
Yeah.
The painful ones that have built up over years, parenting her son, who she describes as hypersensitive, high needs.
That's such a key insight. The block is almost like a defense mechanism.
Right. It shuts down to protect from the pain, maybe the disappointment, the moments where things were just hard. But in doing that,
It shuts down the good stuff, too. The capacity for joy, for gratitude, gets caught behind the same wall.
precisely. And one of the really big feelings she names, sitting right under that block, is grief. She mentions it visiting on Mother's Day.
Can you tell us more about that grief? What kind is it, based on what she shares?
Well, it seems quite layered. It's not just one thing,
Right.
but this accumulation from years of, expectations not being met.
Ah, okay.
She gives concrete examples.
Yeah.
Things like challenges with breastfeeding early on, or not being able to travel easily like they'd imagined.
Simple things, maybe, like spending time with friends or family in the usual way, or even just having a relaxed day out.
Exactly, those kinds of things. Small in isolation, perhaps, but together. They take a picture of motherhood journey that was really different from what she'd envisioned.
Right, all those little moments, the unexpected difficulties piling up.
And over time, she says this shaped a certain mindset, what she calls a conditioned mind, or parts of her that just saw hardship, the glass half-empty view.
And trying to feel grateful from that place.
It's incredibly hard.
Yeah.
Almost impossible, the source suggests.
Okay, so grief is a big piece. But she also points to another powerful emotion hiding there, shame.
Yes, and she gives this really raw, specific example. It involves baking.
Baking with her son.
Yeah, her son, who she mentions has PDA and OCD, needing a lot of repetition and reassurance. She's trying to do this loving thing, baking for him.
But it's difficult. Multitasking hell, basically.
Pretty much. She's trying to focus on a recipe, but also needs to constantly repeat things back to him, manage his needs every few minutes.
And there's more pressure, too, right? Doesn't she mention a perfectionist part?
Yes, a perfectionist chef part, wanting the baking itself to go well. Plus, she notes her own nervous system was already taxed from something else, a detox protocol. So after hours of this...
Overwhelm. Complete overwhelm. Brain and nerves felt fried, I think she says.
Yeah. And then this other part jumps in, a defending part.
Ugh, the need to explain, to justify why it was so hard.
Exactly. That impulse kicks in probably because shame feels so exposed, so vulnerable. You want to provide context immediately.
It's a fascinating look at how these internal parts work, isn't it? The defender tries to shield from the shame by explaining, maybe even pointing out progress, like,
Like noting she didn't react as intensely as she might have in the past, rationalizing.
but the built-up feeling, the activation, had to go somewhere in that baking moment. She got startled, angry at an object.
And then, unfortunately, that frustration spilled over onto her son, saying she couldn't handle both things. Maybe she should just stop making him things.
Which, of course, creates a rupture, a disconnect, and that activates her son.
And the defender part jumps right back in, the author notes, trying to soften it. Hey, this is still better than before. Remember, rupture and repair. It builds resilience.
Those ideas are valid. Of course, rupture and repair is important, but her deeper insight here is the real turning point.
What's that?
She realized that not feeling or not allowing the shame of not being the calm mom she wanted to be, the guilt over past reactions, that was the very thing blocking the gratitude.
Ah, okay, so the block was there to keep the shame and grief contained. But if the heart opened to gratitude,
It might feel safe enough for the shame to surface, and the system says, nope, too much, keep the block up.
wow, that's powerful. The protection mechanism itself prevents the healing, prevents the positive feeling.
Exactly. So, okay, grief and shame build the block, but she digs deeper. Where does this core struggle even come from? And she points to conditioning.
Right. This is where the personal story connects to a broader psychological idea, conditioning being those deep down lessons we learned really early on.
About how to be safe, how to be loved.
Yeah, how to belong, how to be seen as successful. And we often unconsciously project those old rules onto our kids, onto ourselves as parents.
She gives a very personal example, doesn't she? Her own conditioning.
She does. She learned that safety, love, success, it came from external performance. Doing well in school, looking a certain way, being responsible, selfless, kind, aiming for perfection to get approval.
Needing to be like others to fit in. I think many people can relate to aspects of that.
For sure. And this conditioning created a kind of blueprint. It set up unconscious expectations for how her child needed to be, how family life needed to look, so that she could feel safe, loved, successful as a mother.
But her son's reality,
Yeah.
it challenges that blueprint at every turn.
Directly. She mentions he hasn't been in school for years, struggles with responsibility, anxiety makes typical kindness or selflessness really hard for him.
And their life circumstances, like maybe not having friends over easily, hit her sense of belonging.
Exactly. So this mismatch is like a constant trigger for her conditioning.
Mm.
It activates those old messages. He doesn't fit the mold, therefore I'm not safe, loved, successful, I must be a bad mom.
Which just feeds the grief and the shame again. It's a cycle.
A really tough cycle. She describes it feeling like being in handcuffs. If your conditioning dictates the rules and your reality defies them, suffering is almost inevitable.
And she notes how things like social media can pour fuel on that fire, right? Constant comparisons.
Absolutely. Those filtered highlight reels just reinforce the conditioning, making you feel inadequate if your life doesn't match. So the root of the pain, the trigger for the grief and shame, it's this clash between reality and the conditioned beliefs about worthiness and success.
Okay, so that's a heavy load. The grief, the shame, the conditioning. How does she actually find a way through all that if blocking doesn't work?
The path forward has to be different, right? It involves shifting towards what she calls allowing all that is.
Allow it.
And this breakthrough seems to happen for her during a walk in a forest, a place she uses to try and regulate, to connect with her deeper self, away from the conditioned mind chatter.
But initially her mind is still going, thinking, defending.
Yeah, thoughts racing. But then she makes a conscious shift. She tries to become the watcher of the thoughts and brings her awareness into her body. What's actually here?
And what does she find?
Sadness, grief, a wave of it. But instead of fighting it, analyzing it, trying to fix it,
She just allows it.
allows it, offers herself some internal kindness, some understanding. This makes sense, lets the tears come.
And then the shame. Does she allow that too?
Yes. She notices that feeling in her gut, I feel bad shame.
Hmm.
And that internal voice, I just want to be a better mom.
How does she meet that?
With compassion. I know. You're doing the best you can, and all is okay. Just holding space for her.
And that's the moment when the shift happens.
That seems to be it. As she makes space for the grief and shame, just lets them be felt without judgment, something else starts to emerge. Warmth, love,
Presence, like she becomes more aware of the forest around her.
Exactly, more present. And then this natural curiosity comes up. How do I feel about being his mom right now?
And the feeling returns, the blocked one.
It does. Not forced, just. Allowed. Immense love, she says.
Yeah.
And then finally, immense gratitude.
Wow. Tears again, but different tears.
Tears of relief, maybe. Gratitude for finally being able to feel it again. And this profound realization hits her.
What's that?
That it was actually through the difficulty, through the challenges with her son, that she was led to this path. He was mirroring, in a way, exactly what she needed to heal in her own conditioning.
That's quite a perspective shift. So, in that moment of allowing, what specifically does she feel grateful for?
She lists a few key things. Grateful for learning that her old ideas of success, the external stuff, achievements, how things look, they don't have the same hold anymore.
That true success is more internal, knowing and loving yourself, regardless.
Precisely. There's a real freedom in that, she suggests.
Huge freedom. What else?
She's grateful for the practice itself, this allowing all that is. She found that when she does it, she can actually regulate her nervous system.
Come back to the present, access that calmer core part of herself.
Yeah, what she calls her true self, the part capable of unconditional love, compassion.
And it's only from that place, the source suggests, the place of allowing the whole messy reality,
That she can find genuine peace, real joy, real gratitude, right here, right now. It's not about reaching some perfect standard. It's about allowing the imperfection.
She acknowledges how hard it is, though, right? Especially raising a child who challenges norms, challenges your deepest conditioning.
Oh yeah, she's clear. It's okay not to have it all figured out. None of us were really prepared for this level of intensity, potentially.
But the core message feels hopeful, that you do have the capacity to navigate it, to grow.
Absolutely.
Good.
And crucially, you don't have to force gratitude. The path she illuminates starts with allowing what's already there.
The difficult stuff first, the discomfort, the resistance.
Let it unfold. That practice of allowing for yourself is what helps you become more regulated, more present, which is what you need and what your child needs.
Okay, so let's recap this deep dive. We started with that pressure to feel grateful versus the reality of feeling blocked.
Right. Then we explored the grief and shame underneath that block, tracing them back to unmet expectations and that deep conditioning.
And the way through, the key insight from the source is this practice, allowing all that is. It's a path to regulate the nervous system, find peace.
And rediscover genuine gratitude. Not forced, but emerging naturally.
And the final thought, that really powerful idea from this reflection,
Is that maybe allowing the painful stuff, the grief, the shame, isn't just something you have to do to heal. Maybe it's the actual doorway.
the path itself to feeling that immense love and gratitude.
Yeah. So a thought to leave you with. Consider in your own experience, how might allowing what feels difficult, what feels vulnerable, how might that actually unlock your capacity to feel what is deeply good?
Thanks so much for listening to The Regulated Mother. If this episode helped you feel a little more seen, grounded, or hopeful, I'd love for you to share it with another mom who might need it too. And if you want more nervous system tools and support, head to my website, illuminateyou.ca, to grab my free ebook and video series. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. You're doing brave and meaningful work.